Lev was the best team on Ascent until Paper X beat them. And I'm going to show you why and how they dominated them in a map that Paper X honestly shouldn't be favored in. And it was an upset for them to win this map. And so, right off the bat, what they're going to do is that they're going to fake pressure A by getting the one way, usually standard one way. Usually in this instance, if there's in a gunfight, they can take space A, the attackers. But what the defenders do is that we're going to go and try to control mid if they are B. And what they know is that Neon is usually going to fight B main. And so what they're going to see is, oh, is Neon B? Is there any help with them? Is the whole stack here? Because sometimes in instances, they'll do a 4-1 where for the whole gang, sometimes it's King, sometimes it's Neon, where one person, it's is isolated and the other two or other four are fighting. These are not in certain set scenarios, but it's like different maps, different options. But in this instance, it's a 2-3, and what Paper X do, obviously, what they love to do is be proactive, get some info. They don't immediately take a fight, and that's probably one of the biggest improvements in maturity of Paper X is that they would probably still take this fight, but they know, okay, we got some info, so it was on there, most likely Neon is there. And what they're gonna do is they're gonna re-clear just to make sure Neon is there. They're like, okay, Neon's there, then most likely the pack is on A. Either they're trying to fight for space or we got to retake. And so they're like, hold up, we don't hear anything. And long we hold it, we got a Sova, we got a drone for the attackers. And for second calls, all right, everybody come back. They're gonna hit B. Everybody rotates. We go, and then attackers clear sight. And from here, the game plan is that usually a standard comp with the chamber, usually they're gonna hold this B main space. We're gonna see if there's any flankers that are, especially since they already fought mid, they're like, okay, maybe they could flank. And so Neon is usually gonna stay on this angle. If anything, he'll probably be a little bit aggro, but have like a TP lined up in just in case it's there. But most likely that's a pretty dangerous situation as he could TP back. And so in this instance, there's no TP. He's just holding this B main angle. And what Paper X's idea is that, okay, in this instance, we could just straight fight with our util and our gunfights. But what we're going to do is just we're going to re-clear the space. If anybody fights us, we'll get a trade, but we're not going to rush into site. Before that, what we're going to do, we're going to dart, throw out our blinds, and we're going to fight for space. Okay, we're somewhat clear. B main is smoked off. We're going to wall it off. And so that as we do fight into stairs, there's pretty much no opportunity to get a crossfire. Only if Sova peeks out and tries to trade off of here. But in this instance, maybe I guess through Paper X luck. Yeah, if Soba was right here, swinging through here, he could probably get a pick and maybe make it a little bit favorable. But they don't, so they take advantage. That's one less angle to worry about. And so they continue on the fight. They're like, all right, let's fight as a group. We don't need to split. We get a picks, trades, and then finally Neon shows up. We didn't have to look for him, and we get an easy round. And go second round, anti-eco. We get a little bit aggro with a judge, and obviously something pops off. Gets a 2K, a jumping headshot, or sorry, a jumping judge. And that's the anti-eco. Pretty much turnaround is over from there, and then finally we get a gun round. And the only gun round that Lev get throughout this whole thing. From here, this is probably going to be the problem that Lev probably faced the most throughout this. There's going to be a lot of this wall. They're going to trip it, but the biggest problem is trying not to trip it without getting a line on B main, because that's what Neon is known for. As a chamber, usually you aren't going to fight A, usually you aren't going to fight mid, maybe you'll fight in this area, but that doesn't leave you in a favorable advantage when taking space, because the goal of this whole thing is trying to take space so that you have options. And in this instance, they have a little bit of tree, they confirm omen, get a little blind, they confirm sage and say, okay, we fight, we trade, we get our trades, and from there, we win the round. We get A main, they do a retake, we get a couple picks, and they get their round. And so finally, we kind of get a game plan of what Paper X want to do. They know that this is a rookie team. They know they have aimers. What we're going to do is be a little bit proactive. So what something does, they all fight 3 middle. Usually, I feel like in instances before Paper X, they would just like take a bunch of ones. It would just be something by himself. But they know, okay, they team fight, so let's team fight. They get their trays. Something gets out. And so from here, love pause. They think, okay, they push a little bit aggro. Let's see if they continue to push, continue to get proactive, because if they do, then we can punish them. And in this instance, it's just Envy by himself. Because in what scenario are you gonna expect a Sova to be pushing out, and what Neon sees as by himself? Because they don't see Device in a passive angle, and so most of the time, people would say 9 times out of 10 that Neon would be favored in that fight, but he loses that one, and that may have been a detriment to the round. But I feel like 3v4 round is still winnable in a normal situation. So they smoke mid. Maybe Sato could have took a timing mid. Oops. Okay, King said, hey, I'm gonna make some noise. From there, Sato ults. Looks like a B hit. We got a Silvadar, Phoenix Soul. Oh, sorry, I don't have audio, but King didn't make noise. They basically made a B fake on B, but the spike is actually going on A. And in a situation where they maybe do follow up on B, then they probably get a post plant situation, maybe a favorable post plant, because it's a lot easier to retake on A than it is to retake on B, in my opinion. And from there, it's an unfavorable gunfight, 3v2, 3v1. From there, the round is over. So again, just a little bit unlucky. Their game plans, maybe a couple gun rounds or a couple gunfights, go their way. All right, beginning of round. What are we doing? We're baiting noise. Maybe we're gonna rush A. Something goes into wine. Gets Silver Dart. All right, we're gonna back off. Found the op. Let's rotate, but it takes a long time to rotate on A. And do we pop? Do we pop? No, we're gonna slowly reclear. And we're gonna go into the vice setup. I think this one is what may set Paper X apart, is that they know when to take the risk, and also they know that when they're favorable in certain gunfights. They will always most likely take the same gunfights, and that where Divide in this situation maybe he gets one, but in this case he gets 3. They know no matter who it is, it can be Envy, it could be something, it can be Jing, in all their fights they feel favorable and they have no problem taking on 3. And a lot of regions like Americas and sometimes EMEA, like certain players are just uncomfortable. Hey, me personally in ranked, I feel uncomfortable when there's 3 players there, just because you have so much bad experiences with, like, you getting a shot on somebody but then getting instantly traded. But these guys, they don't care. They don't care if they die. So again, dominate the round. Ahead of the setup, ahead of the rotations, they knew they were gonna go B. This little eco or half buy rush got a couple stingers. In this instance, I think maybe one thing, yeah, you could have, some of these rounds they could have just did an A hit, and in this one it's just unlucky because they're also, the defenders are fighting the A hit, and when they fight to seal the wall off, then they isolate a fight. With the Neon doesn't have a favorable advantage just because, you know, the gun and the situation where they wall up the Neon, he's by himself, they get a trade, easy trade. From there, I think Lev pause. Like, obviously, Santarico, they probably just want to finish the round, but they just pause. This is where, like, the eagerness and the impatience of a young squad, where they know they have aimers on a average day, they'll get really good gunfights. They'll win a lot of gunfights. In this instance, if they saw this and there's two regular players, Neon probably would have got at least one. But they don't. Picks up the gun, and they continue to fight. Say, hey, it's our eco round, our half buy round. Let's just do it. We want to fight. Paper X know they're gonna fight. And 1v1 with blows, really unfavorable in this position. Maybe if he gets the buy, then he wins this, and maybe that's a directional swing, but just little. I think I wouldn't say these are fixes. I think these are just like overviews, thoughts, and general ideas that could maybe shape the round, depending on how you view Valorant. So we do a fake flash. And I say fake flash because as in like, yeah, uh, at least what I think is like, okay, what something's doing is fake flashing so that they can set up a tree crunch with the Odin or with the Phantom and the Odin. And that's what they do. But if I'm thinking, okay, if I see uh damn, I forget names. A Euroflash, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, they're all fighting mid. Something's fighting mid, and also they're coming at a tree. And in an instance, they don't have no top mid pressure, and so they don't have anybody to relieve. Like, oh, are they pushing mid? Because they're through this choke point, they have no idea if anybody's fighting mid. And so, yeah, I think you can say in this instance it's a little bit unlucky, but it's also knowing that okay, if we get this recon dart, then we can take advantage of the play. This is a OG EG play because I remember Calm, I think I forgot in what instance did they or who team did they fight, but I remember Calm would set up this play where he would fight on Ascent or was it Calm? Basically, at one point EG they would set up this play where they would fight G. They do a silver dart, and then since they add a Euro flash and get a couple picks. And this fight, crucial. 4v4. We win this fight 4v3. We can probably split into tree and go into A. He can get this A main space and they can isolate this over. But they lose the fight. From there, maybe the round's a little bit winnable. We get a pick right there. Usually Spike could win that, but guess what? We forgot to clear left side of A. And that's tremendous discipline by Envy. Because oftentimes, if he was not calm in that situation, he would try and, you know, get on the fight the Neon, but he doesn't. He holds off. That Neon isn't looking, and he finishes off the round. We're already 6-1. All right, off the bat, at least what I'm thinking is we're gonna go 2-1-2 on defense. This time, something's gonna fight by himself. And so if he does take an angle, he's most likely getting a pick and trying to drop out. Or maybe get a pick and try to continue to hold mid. And I think one thing we see for sure when we look at this comp, or at least Purex idea against this comp, is that Chamber is usually never gonna play A. Unless they hit a site all together with A, usually it's really hard to get angles at these long distances. Usually Chamber is gonna fight pretty much on B. They know chamber is going to be on B. If they know somebody's always going to be there, unless they're hitting a site, then they could take advantage of that because they know they can't really fight mid because they only have one initiator. You fight mid, especially with an op, yeah, you can get out, you can drone out the op, but what if the op isn't there? You just wasted a silver drone. Because like think about it in this scenario where he drones out here, he thinks that something is there. What if something isn't there? He's holding this line, then they have to take their ones unless they use a recon dart just to clear mid. So we do some tempo B like we're rushing B. What they do, oh, Paper X don't over rotate. Okay, Forsaken just sends a smoke. If they do, they have 3 there. Cool. And maybe one thing, looking back at this, obviously they could see, okay, if we do tempo B, there's holes. Almost one thing you can always realize is that sometimes when there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of chaoticness, and especially in a 5-man where 5 people have to hold map control, there's always holes, especially if you make noise. They make noise, they could take their timing into mid, and where they can fight, they can get an isolated 1v1. If they retain hold, control of mid, then they can pretty much go anywhere. They can go through market and out a door, or they can go into A through tree. So something reclears mid, he gets a 1v1. King takes a bad ult because they have no info. They were just reclearing wine with a drone. It's just trying to get some lucky timing. Maybe they overwrote. But in that sense of where you're making B and PRX play, they over rotate. If they ult there, they could probably see the ult into spawn. So most likely in the scenario, maybe someone is playing tree or holding tree. Maybe you ult here. You have a lot more time right here because most likely who's gonna be holding it any space around over here? Maybe in tree, but if someone has to rush into tree, that's a lot of noise before and you can cancel your ult. Okay, and we see we're in a 4v1. Look, we have a minute 13. We have a bunch of time. We can, go back, take a pause, and can think we're hitting somewhere else or reclink somewhere else. But they see somebody on site, they throw out a Phoenix wall. Shipwrecks, oh, they know, oh, they're still here. Something's in mid just in case they rotate. And they take a fight. They lose the round. Which Paper X are happy to have. They love to have fights. So now we're 7-1. Again, we're in a 3-2. This time something isn't holding mid. He's fighting out a B. We tempo B. Usually, when Lev have run this play, usually they've gotten picks because they usually have somebody trying to maybe fight out the smoke or maybe fight. Usually there is somebody always on stairs. Usually a Soba, a standard play for Soba is usually to fight laner stairs. In this instance, I feel like Neon in Americas would always win this fight, but what they do is they bunker B because if they fight, PRX are gonna love the fight, but they don't get the pick on Soba, and pretty much from there it's a lost fight because guess what? Devi rips ult, they continue to fight even though they're out of the radius. They continue to fight. PRX, oh, you're fighting? Let's continue to fight. They get a trade from there. It's a 3v4. And for Paper X, like this is just excellent util. Most of the time, like I said, if the chamber isn't gonna fight or isn't gonna stay on B, usually sometimes they'll stay on B, but since they're at a disadvantage, let them know they have to fight. And so they're gonna recur logs and they're gonna blind into alley. I think he missed some of the smoke or missed some of the blind. But anyways, they went around. And so for Lev, we're gonna default just in case they push mid. You know, either they've been fighting some of the B main or A main spaces, but in this instance they might fight mid, and so we're gonna have 3 people holding mid, one watching cat or one watching through tree, and then one watching through mid, top mid. And one thing about Lev is that they never take their timings. They will see if anybody's fighting mid just to see if anybody's fighting mid, but they will rarely. Maybe I'm wrong, or just this is just based off of memory, but I don't think I've seen them in this game where they actually go into market. They just, if Paper X know, oh, they don't fight into market, then they are reassured that they don't have to worry about it. So we fast forward a little bit, and so we're gonna have an A hit, but we're still having our chamber watching B and our Sova, which should usually be fighting with the pack. And for some reason, I think a common thing is King is scared of this A line, because even if it's Forsaken, because he previously had a fight with Forsaken and he lost it, but like sometimes you have to take the risk and fight on the A line. They don't have no support. It's just 2v2. And then and since the Vice is usually on B, but instead they're on A. They still have their util set up, but they're like, okay, you two hold it down. We're gonna fight A. You hear a noise. Sato get a 1. Oh look, there's 2 here. Happy to take that fight. See, what's the point? What's the point of going into tree? This round I don't get. What's the point of going into tree? What was King's objective this whole time? Just to hold for pressure? But like in this time he could take a timing and fight through the one way. Even if he doesn't lose, he gets info and know that, oh, somebody's in A main. Yeah, you do lose your life, and that maybe seem like a bad thing, but it's like, okay, you get the info, and so that you know when you're hitting a site. But he has a recleared A. Somebody could take a timing. Literally, something could, you know, anybody. They don't know where these 2 players are. They know that these 2 players are around. At least the Sage is around, and they don't reclear A. Probably the most important thing on A, unless you're in an eco round where you need to have close range gunfights, is to have A main space. But they all fight through tree. That's one extra thing you have to do in a post plant. Because like if they get A, they have to worry, oh, is somebody flanking us? We don't have A main control. They have to worry through 3 pressure points on where they can hit. And Divide doing his thing. From the round is over. He doesn't have Omen. Oh, he loses the gun. 9-1. Literally the only time something has been on this angle. Usually he's been through mid, he's been through B, he's been on A, and so he takes a different angle going peeking at a tree. From there they have tempo. They go through A, but guess what? They get a pick. And for some reason, yes, Blows is watching for if they push out a mid, but like he isn't able to get an instant trade on Neon. And usually you would be confident in Neon because he's been really good in 1v1s, but he's just been getting like dominated by these ones against all the Paper X players. So he can't get a trade. He recon darts, and guess what? There's nothing for an A hit. He does nothing. They could reclear wine. That even if they get if something or Forsaken gets a pick right here, they can, you know, shock dart if he isn't able to get out. Forsaken doesn't get punished. And PRX no. Oh, they're fighting A. Are they gonna continue to fight A? Well, at least we have this Vice Wall. So what do? They rotate, they fight mid. Something here's the drone, gets an amazing flick. And then AV on his team sees Neon, inches out. Neon could be anywhere. Sees the gun, gets it literally on the hand. team fight, individuals. And so one thing we saw before is that in the instance where Jing and Forsaken and sometimes something would fight A, they would do uh, like a slave slow. And I believe, I can't really see. Let's see. Do they? Oh yeah, so they do use a slave slow for A. They're stalled out on A. They do the Phoenix Wall. They do a long dart to clear wine. That's interesting. But it looks like they don't hold the space. In this instance where they could have tempo, they decided, okay, let's not have tempo. We could literally hit sight with 3, but for some reason, the Sova is really clear mid. And when again makes sense, they're trying to find the op. They get a pick. Finally, they're in a favorable advantage. Blows tries to jump spot, tries to jiggle. Gets a jiggle. They're holding for mid. Oh, unlucky. They get a trade. All right, from here, what do we do? I don't know if they could see it on their end, but we could get to that vice fall and trigger it. And maybe they can say, oh, we have a hole in mid. Envy, go hold mid. Because, if somebody goes here, either Envy, usually the Soba will hold mid just because they have util and they don't technically have to fight. But yeah, it just leaves a bunch of holes. They're in a 4v3 advantage. Obviously, they have a vice wall. If they go trigger that, then that leaves a hole and where they have to plug in. And if either of these two have to leave, then that leaves a hole of where they can fight in. If they can go into A main and they fight out of it, and then if Forsaken rotates, then that leaves an avenue or where they can hit the site. If Envy rotates, then that leaves an avenue where they could go tree and hit site. But in this instance, let's see what they do. So Jing saves walls. We realize, okay, we have 30 seconds. We're going to have to break the sage wall. It's probably our best shot. We literally have a neon. We could have had enough time to do the same thing. The vice wall, or the sage wall breaks. And we waited it to break. We waited a precious 8 seconds. When during that time, our neon could have jump spotted and triggered the wall. We wait. Okay, guys, let's team fight. Neon makes space. This instance, we don't get a trade because we have a really good flash on Paper X. Neon gets a trade, but there just simply isn't enough time. Even in a 2v1, Forsaken is just better on this day. And wins the round. It's 11-1. And so, one thing's for sure, I think we gotta realize is that Paper X loves to push their tempo. They know that they knew into choosing Lev that they were gonna be able to fight. That Lev loves to fight, and that's what Paper X want. They love when a team is able to fight because it's that Apex style, like always fighting. And at one point before, like it was just always making noise. Like whenever you watch an APAC team or a Pacific team play, is like they're always making noise just because they're always running into gunfights. They always want to, pretty much make the round as fast as possible. But what is different is Paper X has matured. They realize that, okay, we can also take gunfights. We can win those gunfights, but we know when to pause. We know when to step back. We don't always have to take gunfights because if we do it too early, if we don't do it at the right timing, then that's a bad gunfight. If we take it too early, if it isn't a favorable, a gun v gun or in a gun advantage, like an outlaw versus light shields, then that is a good fight. If they simply lose that fight, then it's just, unlucky. But Paper X have realized, okay, you can step up the tempo and have teams play to our tempo. And what Lev does is like Lev has been indecisive. They try to adapt to the game style of where Paper X are pushing and pulling. They'll have tempo in certain spaces, and so they'll either fight it or try to back off and rotate. But since Lev have don't really control the map, Paper X are controlling the map from the defensive side, and that pretty much eliminates the whole game from the get go. They don't fight into market, they don't go into mid, they don't take timings off of smokes, and that is simply some of the things that you have to do because one of the things I think Munchkin, one of Paper X's like kryptonites, like one of the funny things is like you'll find that when Munchkin was playing on Gen G versus Paper X and they would beat Paper X was that Meteor was always taking timings, and Munchkin always had a read on when they would always play aggressive. And so if they're playing aggressive, either they would go the opposite way, they would get that info, go the opposite way immediately, or they would go and fight in the advantage knowing that they're going to be there. And so they would have the util, and while Paper X have to react to what's happening. In this instance, Paper X simply have the better advantage. They know what Lev is going to do. They know they have the game plan, and they know they have certain limitations. But the solo initiator and trying to, get the op off of the line with their util, and that just leaves them into raw gunfights. What Paper X, Paper Rex loves and excels on. I think what Lev learned is that from these fights, like I think they can continue to play like how they do because I feel like they can dominate just off of that merit. But after this Paper X fight, they know that they have to make adaptations in how they take risks because yes, they can play smart and play conservative by taking the smart play, but sometimes you have to do the dumb and risky play so that they can win and be able to sometimes just getting that info. Hey, knowing, hey, this is a stack. I just died for free, and we're in a disadvantage, but I know that we have this info and being able to experience those gunfights and being able to say, okay, we lost them, but we're prepared for next time. So yeah, big testament to experience and just raw skill. And sometimes it's just a little bit of luck. Sometimes when they guess that they're, fighting in a certain area that they weren't expecting it.